This is my Enduro bike. It is a Salsa Cassidy. It has 165 millimeters of travel in the rear, 180 in the front, and it is way overbiked for my local trails. But one of the nice things about this particular bike is that I can actually convert it into a trail bike. And to do that, I just have to do a couple of things. I need to swap out the linkage. So the current linkage here for this 165 millimeter length shock is switched out with this set here that will actually allow this 140 millimeter shock work instead. The other thing we'll do is we'll swap out the front fork with this 150 millimeter Lyric Select fork from RockShox. And that would basically convert it over into a Salsa Blackthorn. The bonus thing that we're going to be doing is adding in this nice light carbon wheel set. And I'll go into more details a little bit later in the video. So for now, let's go ahead and take this off the stand and weigh it real quick and see how much the bike weighs before we make the changes. The bike with all of the accessories and tools and pedals and everything on here comes in at 36 pounds and 5 ounces. So let's switch that over to kilograms. That's 16.34 kilograms. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wash this bike, get it all cleaned up, and go ahead and start installing the new parts. All right, so we're going to go ahead and first remove the wheels. Next, we'll go ahead and remove the brake. And the adapter needs to be removed as well. All right, now we can remove the fork. All right, we'll go ahead and I cleaned the headset here, and I'll just apply some new grease here before we install the shorter fork. I'll go ahead and apply some grease to the top of the crown race here. Our spacer. And the stem. To hand tighten for now. We'll adjust it in a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and attach the brake hose. Keep those not super tight until we put the wheel on and adjust the brake afterwards. Okay, now that the front fork is installed, I'm going to go ahead and loosen the linkage bolts here and remove the shock. There we go. The upper main pivot bolt requires a 15mm socket to loosen this up. Next, I'll loosen the mount bolt here. All right, everything is loose, so let's go ahead and remove the shock now. To go ahead and get the shock out, I need to actually take some air out of the shock. There we go. All right, now it's removed. Okay, now we can go ahead and remove the linkage. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put the other new linkage over here. All right, let's go ahead and pop this out. There we go. All right, that's good. And I'm gonna pull that up. And now that's on. And now I can go ahead and put on the top portion here. And that just pops in right there. And what you'll notice, the main difference between the linkages is that it needs a little bit longer length here to fit the shorter shock versus the shorter version. You can see it's a little bit smaller. All right, now that that's on there, we'll go ahead and put the pivot bolts back onto the bike. All right, I went ahead and cleaned all the bolts and added a little bit of grease just to the main pivot bolts here. Okay, so next step is to go ahead and install the shock. This shock is a RockShox Deluxe Ultimate. It is 140mm of travel. And putting this in, what I'm going to do, instead of putting it into the low position, I'm going to put it into the high position. So you'll see here, these are the flip chips for the Salsa. You have front high, my scratched up front low right there. So that means low is pointing in that way, but we're going to go with the high. So we're going to stick in the high in front like that. All right, and because this one doesn't have the piggyback shock, it's really easy to squeeze in here. All I have to do is just line it up and pop it in just like that. Let's go ahead and get the bolts in here. All right, now I just need to torque them down to 17 Newton meters. The mounting bolt is only 8 Newton meters. All right, let's go ahead and install the wheels. I need to adjust the stem here to straighten it up because it's just not perfectly aligned yet. I still need to torque it down, so let's go ahead and do that now. All right, now let's go ahead and put on the accessories and we'll see how much she weighs. Okay, the weight came in at 32 pounds and 14 ounces, or 14.81 kilograms. It obviously is a pretty big savings there in weight from that original 36 plus pounds there. Obviously, most of it is in the wheels, a little bit in the suspension as well. But what I want to do next is go ahead and take it out on the trail, and I'll give you some more thoughts. Okay, this thing out. Unlock it. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fork. It is a RockShox Lyric Select, and it's 150 millimeters of travel. And I kind of got a really good deal on it. I didn't want to put a lot of money into this secondary build for the bike, so I went with the Select versus the Ultimate. I got it at a really good price, and if I'm unsatisfied with the actual compression and everything else, I can upgrade the whole damper. So that's kind of one of the nice things about this Select versus the Ultimate. Now, I could also service these shock and fork, which is really nice. The Fox doesn't let me do that, but the RockShox does allow that, so that's kind of a nice thing. And finally, I was able to get the matching graphics, the slick graphics for both the fork as well as the shock. All right. The shock is a RockShox Deluxe. It does not have the piggyback reservoir, so it makes it quite a bit lighter. The settings on it are not as advanced as the Super Deluxe, but it does still offer compression and rebound. And it also has a low speed compression setting as well, which is kind of nice, which I'm, especially in these little rocky sections here, it's a low speed compression setting. And it's only like 3 settings, like a low, medium, and a high. So, or I should say, it is a, standard, less compression, and more compression are the 3 different settings. So it all works out. All right, now that I'm starting this climb here, I want to talk about the wheel set. It is Noble TR35s with DT Swiss 240 EXP hubs, and the whole package itself came in at like 1,500 grams, which is much lighter than the old Wheelset. The other thing I updated was the cassette to a Shimano XT cassette, and along with the cassette I got some XT ice rotors, still the same sizes, 203 millimeters. The TR35 wheels, let me get through here, are what they consider their trail wheels. I didn't want to get anything too heavy duty or not quite cross country either, something in between, and they were on sale for a really good price, especially mixed with the DT Swiss hubs. So it has definitely made a huge difference. I think most of my weight savings are from the wheels itself. I think my old wheel set was probably around 200 grams or so, maybe even more. As for the wheels, I have my standard Assegai in front, but I put a dissector in the back. It's a little smoother, a little faster. However, I am willing to try something different for these trails in the future. But for now, it's good. Whew. Well, that was a fun ride. So the one major difference, I think, with this setup is the actual geometry of the bike. It goes from like a 63 head tube angle to, or up to like a 65, which is, I'll put the exact numbers in there. I think the reach also changes out a bit as well. It actually lengthens because obviously the steeper head tube angle. So the reach, I think, goes from like 460 up to like 473 maybe. The wheelbase changes only by between 15 and 20 millimeters. It's not very much, but it makes a huge difference actually when doing those tight switchbacks. I think with the steeper head tube angle, you have a lot of control, but however, you kind of lose some of that control when going down something fast. Like I was going downhill on the trail and it felt a little bit sketchy going at speed, but that doesn't happen very often, or at least the downhills straight like that don't happen very often. And there's still a lot of nice control on the climbs, and that's what's more important, especially on my local trails. So, you know, when it comes down to it, I'll probably switch it back over to the bigger suspension, but that will only be for special trips, maybe like to the bike park at Whistler or maybe Mammoth, something like that. But in the meantime, I think for my local trails, the setup works really, really, really well. I'm very happy with it. I think the only thing I'm really thinking about changing next are these tires. They are a bit aggressive for the trails that are really, I don't think I really need something this aggressive. Maybe I can get something a little bit lighter. We'll see. I'll think about it. In the meantime, why don't you go out and enjoy the ride?